Game Design 2, Lecture 4, Segment 2. Let's talk about possibility space. And to dig into possibility space, I'm just going to go right into a practical example. Let's solve this puzzle. I am going to present you with a few facts and one ability that you can use, and I want you to think about how you would solve this puzzle. Now, there are no points for solving it quickly. As I said in the introduction to this lecture, there's 3 times that I'm going to ask you to slow down and really think about what your brain is doing when you solve the puzzle. So again, don't try to solve it quickly. Try to think about each discrete step that your brain takes, every thought process, every strategy that your cognitive effort employs to try to solve this puzzle. So here goes. I have 3 crates. In one of these crates is just apples. In one of these crates is just oranges. And in the third crate are both apples and oranges. That is a fact. Here's the second piece of truth. They are currently all labeled incorrectly. Crate 1 does not contain just apples. Crate number 2 does not contain just oranges. And crate number 3 does not contain both apples and oranges. That is a fact. So that's all the information that I'm going to give you. But I will give you one ability. Once and only once, you may choose one random crate and peek at one piece of fruit. So I will reach in, the first piece of fruit that I touch, I will pull out, I will show to you, and you can only do that one time. So 3 crates, all currently mislabeled. Once and only once, you may peek at one piece of fruit from one crate. How does your brain go about solving this puzzle? I'm going to pause for just a second while you work through it. If you already know, try to go back to the beginning and think about how you got to that answer. All mislabeled, can peek at one piece of fruit. Often when I give this lecture live, students will go right to saying, I would look at number 3. I would look at the fruit in number 3, which is true. Like, that is actually the proper strategy. That's the right thing to do with that ability. But it's step 2. And I use this example, this exercise, to illustrate how effective our brains are, the neurotypical human brain is, at reducing possibility space, at figuring out what it isn't in order to narrow down the possibilities of what it is. For example, when you take a test, when you take a multiple choice quiz, you've got 6 possible answers. Is the very first thing you do is looking for what the correct answer is? If you know it, maybe. But if you don't know it, if you have to figure it out, the first thing that the typical brain does is look for the obvious things that it isn't, reducing the possibility space from 6 to, say, 3, and now I've got to figure out which of those 3 is the correct answer. Same thing here. So the way we do the way I can illustrate this visually is, here are all these 6 possible states of what these 3 crates, how these 3 crates could be configured. Now, that first row there, we know it can't be that, because that's how they're currently labeled. And I said each crate is currently incorrectly labeled. And with that information, we can also eliminate number 2, because it still has apples in the first crate. We can eliminate number 3, because it has both in the third crate. And then there's one more. Yep, number 6, which still has oranges in the second crate. So whether you realized your brain did it or not, it probably, maybe even subconsciously, rapidly went through and said, crate number 3 has to be either apples or oranges, not both. So if I pull a piece of fruit from that, I will figure out what the actual third crate contains. And from there, yeah, you can extrapolate and derive what the others contain. This is another set of possibilities. So here I'm looking at it, and in number 1, if I happen to draw an apple, if I choose to draw from crate 1, if I get an apple, I know it's both. But if I get an orange, inconclusive. It could either be just oranges or both. Likewise, if I get an orange out of crate 2, I know that it has to be both, but if I get an apple, it's either just apples or both. It's only in crate 3 that whatever fruit I peek at is going to give me a deterministic answer to what is in crate 3. If I get an apple, it's just apples. If I get an orange, it's just oranges. And from there, I can derive the answer to the remaining crates. So an apple in 3 means that it's orange, both, apple. And an orange in 3 means it's both apples, oranges. So again, you might have come to that conclusion very quickly, not even realizing that your brain eliminated those initial 4 of 6 possibilities. Like I said, I'm going to say it again, our brains are very good at eliminating the possibility space. And super important, I'm going to slow it down, I'm going to stare right into the camera and say, if you get nothing else out of this lecture, please make sure that you take away this. It is the act of reducing the possibility space that is the fun part of solving a puzzle. Did you get that? It is the act of reducing the possibility space that is the fun part of solving a puzzle. And I do a little example to really drive this home to prove it. I'm going to give you a riddle. A riddle is a word puzzle. So I'm going to give you a riddle and deny you the opportunity to reduce the possibility space. Here's what it looks like. I'm thinking of an object. Huge possibility space. All of the objects in creation, very large, near infinite possibility space. I'm thinking of an object. Its maker doesn't need it. Its buyer doesn't want it. And its user doesn't see it. It's a coffin. How fun was that? Was that enjoyable? Did you like that riddle? Was it a fun puzzle to solve? Absolutely not. And it's obvious, but why? Because I spoiled it. This is where the term spoilers come from, or spoiler alert. If I just give you the answer without providing you the opportunity to you yourself, the player, reduce the possibility space, it's no fun. Yeah, you got the right answer. It's like saying, hey, here's a long treasure hunt. Would you like to press the button and just skip to opening the treasure? Well, if you're an achiever and you just want the treasure, maybe that's viable. But if you're an explorer and you want to solve the puzzles and explore, yeah, you would never do that. It's why some, when you're reading an article, a game review, and it's like spoilers, you're like, close. You know, don't tell me. I want to figure it out for myself. It's the same thing as saying, I want to reduce the possibility space myself, because that is the fun part of solving a puzzle. Remember that. It's key. Key in any puzzle that you integrate into a game or interactive experience in the future, allow the player the opportunity to reduce the possibility space. All right, so I've harped on that long enough. In the book, Players Making Decision, they talk about a couple pitfalls surrounding this same concept. I'm going to cover one just briefly, which is this particular puzzle. It's from BioShock 1. Great game, but let's just, roll with the example. Don't belabor the example here. Let's say that I came upon an ice wall, and I had to figure out how to get through the ice wall. And I had a possibility space of 5 to choose from. I can shoot it, electrify it, cyclone it, hypnotize it, or fire it. What do? Well, yeah, you cast fire because, fire melts ice. Everybody knows that. What type of decision is this? It's an obvious decision, from day one. Awesome thing, garbage, trash, and crap. It's even though there's a possibility space of 5, it doesn't require any reduction on my part because the answer is obvious. So even though you have a sizable possibility space, doesn't inherently make it engaging or fun because the player still doesn't have to go through the experimentation or the act of figuring out how to reduce it. They have one obvious choice. They pick it. There it is. So keep that in mind as you are working through your puzzles, making sure that there's plenty of time to experiment with the puzzle mechanics, progress down a few routes, maybe have to backtrack, try new things, think outside of the box. Like I said, again, all these concepts are covered in the book. We're going to stop here and move on to the next section where we talk about a bit of trivia.